So Dominic here from the Writing Festival. Looking forward to seeing you on the 26th, 27th and 28th of April for the second Bournemouth Writing Festival, which is happening in Bournemouth Town Centre. Now, some of you have been emailing me to ask about an all-inclusive ticket or a weekend ticket. And there's two reasons why we're not doing that. All of our talks and events and workshops are all priced individually. Now, the first of those two reasons is probably the most important, is that a lot of our venues have different capacities. So some are very big and some are very small. So if we were to have an open ticket, then if some of those smaller venues sell out or lots of people turn up, then we might have to turn people away because of that capacity. So to avoid that and avoid people being disappointed, we are selling each event individually. The second reason is an all-inclusive, all-weekend ticket might be quite cost prohibitive for some people. So the idea is that because we priced it individually, people can buy as many or as few events that they want to go to, depending on their budget. So for those two reasons, we don't have an all-you-can-eat ticket. And that's why they're priced individually. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Alex Thompson. He is the Business Development Manager at Troubadour Publishing. And they offer authors various routes to get their books out into the world. Now, Troubadour's subsidiary, the Book Guild, is an independent book publishing company. And I know some of the authors within our private Facebook group, which anyone can join, and our networking events, have published books through the Book Guild and with Troubadour. So I'm really excited to speak to them today. So hello, Alex.
Hi, Dominic. Thanks very much for having me.
Thanks for being here. So Alex will be in the main festival hub foyer for all of Saturday. So if you want to go and talk to him about anything that Troubadour, the Book Guild do, then please go and say hello. But he's also doing a talk on Saturday, the 27th of April at 1:30 p.m. in Pavilion Dance. And the title of that talk is Traditional versus Partnership versus Self-Publishing. What is best for you? So Alex, tell us a little bit about yourself and about Troubadour and the Book Guild.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me talk about Troubadour and the Book Guild first, because it adds a bit of colour to my role. So Troubadour Publishing, we've been publishing books, self-publishing books, since the late 80s in one form or another. We have been through the journey that self-publishing has gone through, all the way from being this niche area on the side of book publishing, all the way now to being a force for nature in the publishing world. We're a self-publishing services provider, and that is anything from individual services all the way up to, we operate basically anything you could want within publishing. So that's anything from your editorial, your marketing, your sales. We have our own distribution hub and warehousing, and a lot of other stuff as well. So we're sort of what you'd call a full service provider in the self-publishing world. Our niche, if you like, is that we're really, really good at getting authors represented in bookshops. Certainly for lesser known independent authors or debut authors, we'll give them the best chance that a self-published author can get at getting into bookshops. That's our sort of niche, but that also involves helping people publish on Amazon, all that sort of stuff as well. So we're a bit of a jack of all trades in the self-publishing world, aiming towards the more quality sort of end of the market. The Book Guild is a brand of ours. It's a company in its own right, as you rightly say, but it's a brand of ours that we purchased in 2015. It was formerly based in Brighton, so not far from you guys down in Bournemouth. But it's what you'd call a partnership, a publishing company that operates on a partnership model. So that's a little bit different, and I'll talk about that in a minute a bit more. But it's a slightly different model that means we attract slightly different authors that have slightly different objectives. But again, the goal's the same. It's helping an author have a really nice publishing experience with experts that know what they're talking about and getting them published. That's the goal for us, really. My role within that is essentially exactly what we're doing now, which is trying to shout about ourselves a bit more, and trying to get noticed by as many authors as possible to hopefully work with as many as possible. But I think where we maybe differ compared to lots of other companies and lots of other industries is that we're not just trying to work with authors, we're also trying to help educate and trying to help authors understand what is best for them in what is a really, really complex market. My personal background is actually in marketing, so I only joined Troubadour in 2022. And before then I was in marketing. But, you know, my experience in marketing has taught me that actually everybody has got problems that they're trying to solve. The problem we're talking about at Troubadour is how do we get published? And our goal is to help people get to that goal, you know, get to the achievement of how to publish and educate them along the way. I had myself a very steep learning curve of publishing when I first joined Troubadour, and, you know, it's a lot of information for independent authors to take on, and we're trying to help them, you know, learn a bit more.
You're right. There is so much information out there, and there is so, you know, in the networking groups and the people that I meet as part of the festival, there is always that debate about self-publishing and traditional publishing and what the pros and cons of each. And you've got a third way. So why don't you tell us about you know, what your talk's going to be covering?
Yeah, well, it's quite simple in its concept actually. We've talked about the three: traditional versus partnership versus self-publishing. There's a lot of similarities between those three, but there's also a lot of differences, and neither of them or none of them are right for every author. And what we have on a daily basis talking with lots of different authors is either I've explored one of these routes, but I'm now exploring another one. How do I possibly make head or tail of which one is best for me? And I think I'm going to start right at the beginning. I'm going to help define what those three areas of publishing are, what the actual differences are, because again, there is a lot of just literature around different people defining things in different ways. So I'll talk about, first of all, you know, traditional publishing. I'll talk about how it works, the structure of it, what people go to it for, what people perhaps avoid it for, and, you know, being pretty frank about, you know, the challenges, but also the benefits that authors can see with that area. By the way, traditional publishing is typically where an author will either sell or hand part or all of their rights over to a publisher. That publisher will then take that book and do whatever they want to with it, but that's typically distributing it and producing it, but taking away kind of the creativity away. I'll talk about partnership publishing, which obviously we do, but a lot of other organizations do that in very different ways to us as well. Again, it's probably the one that's got the biggest you know, question mark around it. It's the one that can have lots of different variations, but typically partnership is, you know, where an author will part fund that project with the publisher. But the ways that happens, there's loads of different ones, and I'll touch on that a little bit as well. And then I'll talk about self-publishing, and that's the one with definitely, you know, more author creativity. They continue to own their rights, or they should do anyway. They have more control over the creativity. They typically get better royalties out of it. But again, there's challenges with that as well. So I'm going to go over that in a lot more detail. Once I've done that, I'll be elaborating a little bit more on the sort of key differences between them, because even everything I've just said there's even quite a lot of similarities between all three of those. So I'll be talking about breaking it down really simple. What are the differences that we all need to be aware of, especially if you're, you know, an author looking to publish a book? But a lot of my session will be based on pros and cons. I find that a really useful way of breaking something down to decide whether I want to do or not do something. Hopefully everybody attending my session will feel the same. But for each of those three journeys to publish the book, what are the pros, what are the cons? And no judgment either way. It's just laying it out in front of people so that the people attending can just make a decision on what is best for them. So that's going to be the bulk of it. But I think probably the most important thing that I'll cover will be towards the end of the session, which will be, first of all, how to weigh up those pros and cons. So what are the things that you perhaps should prioritize a little bit more versus perhaps be a little bit less worried about. But I think also making outlining some key things to look out for as well. I think everybody attending will have heard in various different places that some organizations are perhaps less don't have the authors gonna have to edit that bit. don't have the author's best interests at heart. And what we're trying to do, whether people choose to come and work with us or not, is just guiding people towards, these are the things you really need to work on, these are the things you really need to check, these are the questions you really need to ask, these are the things you need to make sure that you still maintain or whatever, and the fundamentals behind that, because again, there's a load of different things that people could gravitate towards, but I'm going to try and break it down and make it really, really clear. So that's what the session will cover. I'll make sure that there's going to be a good chunk of time at the end for questions as well, if anybody did want it. But in a nutshell, that's what people can expect.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Alex. And at the Writing Festival and in our networking groups and at the Writers' Havens, I find that we have quite a spectrum of different writers and authors that come along. So some are complete beginners. In fact, I met somebody at the Writers' Haven who hasn't even started yet. I just think, I'd love to write a book, I just don't know how, all the way to those who are self-published or traditionally published already, and they're writing their next one and they're thinking about what route to go. So who would you say your talk is aimed at, and what would they take away?
Yeah, it's do you know what, my hope and goal for this is that we have an audience of people at exactly that. It's a bigger version of that audience you've just talked about, people who are on completely different journeys towards publication. They've got different objectives. Some people that have a lot of experience, some people that have absolutely no experience at all and just want a bit of help with the basics. You know, the people that I enjoy talking to most out of all of the authors we have is the people that have either published with us a few times but are maybe deciding on where else to go. But, you know, people that have published either traditionally or partnership, but they're now looking at self-publishing, the people that are really questioning the different routes to publication and are really wanting to understand the differences between all three of them, those are the people that I think that will get the most out of this session. But realistically, I think even if somebody comes to the Bournemouth Writing Festival, they know they want to pursue a traditional publishing contract, I'm pretty confident that I could say that within my session somewhere, they'll learn something that they didn't know before. So I'd like to think it's a varied audience, and I'm hoping to see everybody from, you know, like people that have published 10 books to somebody who's never published before, somebody who's published traditionally, somebody who's published self-publishing. I'm hoping for a big group.
Brilliant. And do you know what? It's such a hot topic amongst writers at the moment, whether to go self-published or whether to go published or traditional or something else. Like, what are the different alternatives? And it sounds like you're going to be covering a lot of bases for a lot of different writers and authors out there. So thank you so much. So Alex Thompson is the Business Development Manager at the Book Guild, which is part of Troubadour Publishing. And he will be doing his talk, traditional versus partnership versus self-publishing, which is best for you, at 1:30 on Saturday, the 27th of April. And don't forget that Alex will be in the foyer for most of the day as well, if you want to go and ask him any questions. So thank you so much, Alex, for joining us today.
Thank you, Dominic.
Great. Well, I look forward to seeing everybody at Bournemouth on the 26th, 27th and 28th of April. And don't forget to book tickets via the website now. Cheers.